This week's episode was brought to you by Jen and Luke N. Thank you, Jen and Luke N. It's with the unbelievably generous support of listeners like yourself that we here at The Whole Rabbit keep baking up big buttered buns for your bedeviled brains. If you'd like to help us keep our pie crust filled and get access to our entire library of extended episodes, more than doubling the content of The Whole Rabbit there is to enjoy, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where besides access to our full show, I'll send you a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our big Bunfament cover art at no additional cost, and the secret keys to our Discord server, where you can talk to us about the voluminous tables of zodiacal associations you'll hear about in these episodes. This week sees us continue into part 2 of our series on zodiacal magic, where we venture into the orbit of the 7 classical planets of the ancients. In this extended runtime episode, we move planet to planet and discuss their vast array of magical, occult uses in depth, one by one. We discuss everything from medieval esotericism to modern physics and find a number of satisfying connections that truly astound. We even discuss the Hebrew letter associations to the planets from the tarot, and in the extended show, discuss the newly discovered planets, how to read planetary aspects, figure out planetary hours, and other info necessary for working with planets in ritual. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
That's kind of like how some circles believe grand trines are. When there's like a perfect equilateral triangle on your chart, you're kind of like fated. Nobody can mess with your fate or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, grand trines are like supposedly, the best.
Yeah, you're like Jesus, basically.
Yeah, the best.
Hello everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you about the raging furnace of elemental chaos churning within the material basis of your very being, and then show you exactly where on the cardboard picture book the cranky old demiurge touched us. Nay, we raise our big floppy ears to the heavens and listen in to the rainbow of colored vibrations emanating from the planets sparkling like the sky candy jewels in the great beyond, because this week we're discussing the planets as the second part of our series on zodiacal magic. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by Messier Mama Marisama,
Greetings, star children.
the mighty mauve Martian Malachor 5,
I'd cry in pain if tear ducts could cut me loose.
and my tidally locked lover, Hecka Astra.
Hello. It's true. I'm always staring at you because you're gorgeous.
Oh.
Thank you, sweetie.
Do you stare at him with the telescope?
I watch him while he sleeps.
Ooh.
So intimate.
It's true.
That is actually true.
I did kind of see that happen in person one time at the studio. Great times.
I can't believe I fell asleep.
Hinc iter ad astra. From here the way leads to the stars.
Oh, Latin.
Without the assistance of a telescope, millions of miles away just looks nothing like it truly does. So it left everything to the imagination of the ancient people when they looked to the heavens at night. And what we call planets, they thought they were gods and entities moving around in space, influencing the world.
They're also like an old word for planets called wanderer. That's what it translates loosely to, because it seems to wander on the background of the stars. It's the stars that move.
Is this why in Sailor Moon they're called Sailor Scouts?
Yeah.
Yeah, because sailors would use them also to track where they are on the water. That's basically how we were able to sail around the world, is we would measure the stars. If you could identify the planet, you could tell what time of season it was. You could tell where you were.
And sailors are travelers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to space, take your tuxedo and your mask.
Woo!
Instead of building blocks like the elements, the planets are likened to the rainbow. Each color is a unique and yet complementary aspect of the divine whole. I would argue the planets are the most human part of the entire body of philosophy. They exist comfortably between the immortal unity of heaven and the ever-morphing temporal world created by the elements. Each one has a unique personality in relationship to the others, like characters on a TV show or members of a band. In fact, across cultures, different pantheons tend to resemble each other remarkably, even when separated by geography and great amounts of time. From a purely materialistic, non-spiritual perspective, we can see this occurring because humans are the ones projecting their basic psychological modes onto their environment. After all, a single person can be a hero, a boss, a lover, a teacher, a disciple, a warrior, and a servant depending on the situation and context. The planets represent these different aspects of the self. They are characters on the stage, acting out the show that is our lives, both inside and outside.
And it's interesting that you'd call them archetypes for the human personality or the ego, because like you were saying earlier, a lot of the older pantheons are centered around the planets as a concept. Like they thought they were actual gods.
I think because of that, personally, I see the planets definitely existing above the elemental realm, and that realm is below the ego, subconscious stuff. But, we are the ego, and then the planetary stuff is above the regular human, mentality, because naturally, I think humans are operating on the elemental level. So learning magic starts to activate your planetary level.
That kind of makes sense scientifically as well, right? Like all of us, we're all made of star stuff. So all of the earthly elements are also microcosmic reflections of the macrocosm.
As above, so below.
The planets as archetypes for us are almost like super egos, or a conglomeration of all of the average aspects of somebody that embodies that quote unquote character or planet.
The planets are like building blocks of the ego. That would make the elements like the constituent parts of those personalities, but the planets themselves are personalities. Remember that old meme where it's like me on Facebook, me on Tinder,
Me on Grinder on the bottom right corner, and it's I got tassels over my nips and a unicorn horn in my ass. Yeah.
Those are like the different planets.
Exactly.
One of our primary sources for this series is Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, originally printed in 1530s France and compiled volumes of information about occult and magical philosophy familiar to Hermetic philosophers of the time. Agrippa's 3 books go into depth about the classical elements, astrology, Kabbalah, numerology, angels, names of God, as well as the methods of utilizing them in law, medicine, scrying, ceremonial magic from Hebrew, Greek, and Chaldean origin.
You're wondering, like, okay, I want to buy a book that's going to teach me like old school occult stuff, like legit. Like, I don't want somebody's quoting another book. A lot of the modern stuff goes back to Agrippa's 3 books. You can buy all 3 on Amazon in a wonderful edition that's printed very nicely. I own a copy. It's totally worth it. Even if you don't understand everything you're reading, read it and then go and like Google that part of the book and do some research, because it's just full of the best kind of magic stuff you can ask for, in the West, at least.
It's foundational.
It truly is.
It helps a lot in understanding other older grimoires as well.
It's a filter. So in a way, Agrippa is acting as a planetary archetype in this sense to the modern magician. We kind of have to filter through his work, among others, to get a sense of where we can go with it and where we're at in the first place.
Let's look at some examples. Chapter 22 is titled, How Inferior Things Are Subjected to Superior Bodies, and How the Bodies, the Actions and Dispositions of Men are ascribed to stars and signs. Here, Agrippa explains how proper understanding of the planets can lead to the ease of specific bodily ailments because of a sympathy between the large scale of planetary bodies and the small scale of human events in biology. Philosophically, this idea could be summed up in the Hermetic motto, as above, so below. Agrippa explains thusly, It is manifest that all things inferior are subject to the superior, and after a manner, as saith Proclus, they are one in the other. These in inferior are superior, and in superior are inferior. So in the heaven are things terrestrial, but as in their cause and in celestial manner. And in the earth are things celestial, but after a terrestrial manner, as in effect. So we say that there be here certain things which are solary, and certain which are lunary, in which the sun and moon make a strong impression of their virtue. Whence it is that these kinds of things receive more operations and properties, like to those of the stars and signs which they are under. So we know that solary things respect the heart and head, by reason that Leo is in the house of the sun, and Aries the exaltation of the sun. So things under Mars are good for the head, and testicles by reason of Aries and Scorpio. Hence, they whose senses fail, the head ache by reason of drunkenness, if they put their testicles into cold water or wash them with vinegar, find present help.
I told you this book is helpful.
I mean, it's on so many levels, too.
Are you hungover? Take a cold shower and make sure to get your testes wet.
Bro, it'll wake you up in like 2 seconds, probably.
Yeah.
I imagine some complicated instrumentation like medieval stirrups, just tucking his legs up and his balls just dipping by themselves into a
big barrel of water, and it's like suddenly the migraine goes away. And he's like, oh, finally, I can shuck corn again.
Just imagine an occult student like reading this book in the wild, wild west. You know, he just got a revolver and everything. It's gonna be funny.
I'm gonna draw me a big barrel of cold water, honey. Give me a minute. Oh, by the way, fetch the vinegar. Mars is out tonight.
Agrippa's kind of saying when you infuse passion and purpose into your physical workings, by nature, there's a union between yourself and higher intelligences. So you're joining your mental space with higher realms of mental space, including those of the celestial bodies, whether you're aware of that or not. The more in tune you can operate like this, the greater the effect will be in your magic and life in general. Because of this, understanding the planets creates a fundamental basis for greater works of magic. These fundamental understandings lie in the ability to know the order and virtues of both the heavenly bodies above, as well as how they exist below in the order and virtues of yourself and your earthly existence.
So if you're writing a book, the elements would be like knowing how to spell words and punctuate, but the planets are like the characters in your book.
We're editing it to flow nicely.
It's like characters in the book that break the fourth wall and then help you write the story through your thoughts.
Whoa,
Because you're like, you're like entering the mind of the character, and then you're like, well, actually, he wouldn't do that, huh? He would do this and behave this way and say this instead of. So that's a good analogy. I like how you put that, Luke.
So all of the planets' movements and characters are related to the elements, emotions, and dispositions, parts of the body, musical notes, etc. And all of these heavenly characteristics are reflected on Earth in all of nature, which is how plants, minerals, and even your organs came to have planetary associations.
As silly as some of the specific things are, I think the general idea is true.
Even if you view the planets as being purely archetypal and removed from a spiritual meaning, you can still see how those archetypes are in all of the things around you in all of life.
Your goals, your relationships, your wealth, your luck.
That being said, I've said it many times, operating above the zodiac, operating above planetary, operating above the elements. They can, in fact, control your fate if you let them. These are tools to understand. And if you fail to understand the fundamentals, then you will be operating under elemental. You know, the elements will be your gods. You know, then you learn more and more and more. You could go beyond planetary to zodiac level. And then it's like, okay, I'm not slave to the planets. I'm not slave to these gods anymore. I know what to do.
But to get there, you have to know the planets.
Right.
Yeah, it shouldn't stop you from following whatever your will is. That's what I'm saying. Operate above it. Know how to go about, getting across the ocean when there's a moon in the sky. It's going to be high tide. You got to know this. Like, you can work above that planet and its influence on the world. Pick your battles, I guess. We got a song named after that quote.
Following this point, we'll discuss the actual planets and their magical and energetic associations one at a time in an organized fashion, but Agrippa provides a handful of summaries throughout his books. I wanted to share two of them before we begin on the solar system. But Hermes saith that there are 7 holes in the head of an animal, distributed to the 7 planets, viz. The right ear to Saturn, the left to Jupiter, the right nostril to Mars, the left to Venus, the right eye to the Sun, the left to the Moon, and the mouth to Mercury.
So you should be aware of which nostril you're snorting.
There is yoga, breathing yoga, where you breathe through one nostril and the other.
Colombian yoga is great, especially when it's pure.
Yeah, boy.
You ever look at the planets while you're high? Awesome.
I kind of like the Venus nostril.
Not gonna lie, that is the preference one for me.
The left nostril connects to your right brain, which is creativity.
For Saturn governs old men, monks, melancholy men, and hid treasures, and those things which are obtained with long journeys and difficulty. But Jupiter, those that are religious, prelates, kings, and dukes, and such kind of gains that are got lawfully. Mars rules over barbers,
Theurgens?
chimichangas, physicians, sergeants, executioners, butchers, all that make fires, bakers, soldiers, who are everywhere called martial men. So it's this understanding that everything has a planetary association. If somebody's there all day cutting stuff up with flying metal, they're associated with Mars. That's just how it is.
Unless you're taking a scythe to the field for the harvest, then that's Saturn, because you waited for so long for it to mature. Also, investment banking is under Saturn.
Doesn't Sailor Venus have a sword, though?
I don't remember.
She has the sword of the tongue.
So if we're going to get into the planets now, it makes sense to start with the sun and the moon, which are known as the lights. They're also part of the order of the inner planets. So the inner planets are the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So anything that is of the nature of the sun or under the power of the sun is referred to as solary, resembling the masculine, the flame, or rays of light. So even the taste of something can be solary. The sun's nature is glorious, courageous, bold, self-confident, victorious, and sovereign. It's the center of our solar system, and so it's likewise related to the ego, the identity or the center of self. These solary characteristics are reflected in earthly life. Solary nature is given to anything which heralds the nature of the sun itself. Plants that fold in their leaves or their blossoms when the sun sets and reopen them when the sun returns, they have solar associations, as well as any plant that turns towards the sun, like calendula.
Or
Marigolds.
sunflowers that resemble the sun.
Yeah. Calendula, like marigolds, they also look very sunny.
Oh, yeah.
So solary nature includes the application of rigorous justice as well as providing vitality, since all life is formed and sustained by the light and the warmth radiating from the sun. And the sun itself generates strong magnetic fields. Solar energy even reaches to Pluto in the form of solar winds. So the individual planets transform the solar energy into more specific energy, which in turn affect each other and Earth and you.
I love the sun and the symbolism of it.
You love yourself, huh?
Yeah, because it's me. You know, it's all of us. It's the strongest, and in terms of energy, that's the biggest thing in our solar system. It is technically, magically speaking, the strongest entity local
The
wise.
center of gravity.
I mean, it is called the solar system.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny about like worshiping planets and elements and stuff, there's other stars with planets around them. So like focusing on just your system's a little like funny to me, because when you realize it's like, oh wait, there's like all this other stuff out there too. It's like we have no clue. So like let's learn what we got around us first. But the sun is the big daddy. It's associated with the sphere of Tifereth on the Kabbalistic tree of life. The divine name Yod-He Vav-He Eloah Da'ath is
The name you use to activate the powers that belong to that sphere. So it gets the attention of the archangels, and then the angels underneath that, and the legion of spirits underneath them, so on and so forth.
It's interesting to me, too, that the symbol that's used to represent the sun in the astrology charts, as well as old alchemy charts, and it's an ancient symbol, is a dot with a circle surrounding it.
It's the hieroglyph for the
Yes.
sun.
Yeah. But it also reminds me of the self and the heavens as involved with the Egyptian mythology, which is like pretty much the same symbolism, is that the male is the dot and the female is the circle that encircles it. I think the sun is a great starting point for the planets because it is the center of attention. It's the center of your consciousness, I guess, your ego. And it basically is a point with a circle of influence around it. That is the center of your consciousness.
With everything else orbiting around it, which is like the circle.
And it does look like a star with orbits. It looks like a solar system.
right. And to move on here, the archangel name used is Raphael, and it's usually attributed to the color gold.
In alchemy, the symbols for the metals associated with the planets are symbolized by the planet symbol itself. So in the case of gold, it's symbolized by the symbol for the sun that we just talked about, the circle with the dot in it. And gold is considered a fiery sovereign metal.
Gold is highly conductive.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It's also pretty soft, believe it or not.
It's malleable.
Mm-hmm. It's flexible and fragile to a degree.
I've got space nerd facts. I went to space camp 5 times as a kid, and then I was a camp counselor. So I've been stuffed full of globe propaganda my whole life. So if the Earth is flat, I have the entire corpus of disinfo built into my DNA and am actively an agent of Satan. The sun rotates once on its axis every 27 Earth days. It contains 99.86% of the mass of the entire solar system and could contain roughly 1.3 million Earths. It's ginormous.
Woohoo. It's fucking massive.
Insanely huge. Like everything else, like all the other planets are just in that 0.15% of that last 1%. The core is the hottest part of the sun at 15 million degrees Celsius. It's hot enough to fuse hydrogen atoms into helium. In fact, all the heavy elements, you, I, and the planets that they're made of, they're created in star fusion reactors just like this one. Every 11 years or so, the sun's magnetic field entirely flips. The sun's north and south poles literally swap places. Then it takes about another 11 years for the sun's north and south poles to flip back again. Some have theorized these flips in the sun's magnetism correspond to trends back and forth between hippie and punk, with one 11-year cycle favoring slower, longer music, looser clothes, relaxed attitudes, and long hairstyles. Well, 11 years later, we see tighter clothing, faster, shorter songs, shorter hair, and more Riley attitudes.
Also, every 11 years or so, the sun pulses out a giant solar storm. And 11 years after that, it goes into minimum activity. It's called the solar maximum and solar minimum cycle. Changes your DNA because it's radiation.
In terms of the tarot, the sun is associated with the Hebrew letter Resh, the 20th Hebrew letter. It means head, leader, and beginning. It's the symbol of choosing between greatness and degradation. It can refer to either the higher self or the degradation of the self. This makes sense because our ego is the top of our psychological pyramid and can lead us to glory or ruin. A kingdom is only as good as its king, after all.
The brain, heart, the thigh, the marrow, the right eye, and the spirit. Also the tongue, the mouth, and the rest of the organs of the senses as well, internal as external. Also the hands, feet, legs, nerves, and the power of imagination. Agrippa attributed to the sun's energy in terms of magic, right?
So a lot of things.
Yeah, like the whole body. Psychologically speaking, the sun domain, as we have kind of touched upon, is the ego, vitality, the will, essentially what you put out into the world, because like we all said before, the sun is what created all of us, so it put us literally on the map.
The sun is the center of the solar system and unifies all the others by holding them in their respective orbits. Without the sun, the other planets just wouldn't exist. Just like a sun in a solar system, the ego is clearly visible from every other planet, even if the other planets are not visible to each other. The sun never sees a planet going retrograde. It always perceives its parts as moving the same way, because that's what's really going on. Some birds associated with the sun are the phoenix, the eagle, vulture, swan, the cock, the crow, the hawk. He associates this to the Egyptians because they used it that way as an emblem of the spirit and light. So he's hearkening back to some old associations. According to Cornelius Agrippa,
So the chrysolite stone is of light green color, in which, when it is held against the sun, there shines forth a golden star, and this comforts those parts that serve for breathing, and helps those that be asthmatical. And if it be bored through, and the hole is filled with the mane of an ass, and bound to the left arm, it drives away idle imaginations and melancholy fears, and puts away foolishness. Sounds useful.
I think the classic archetype of the sun in terms of a character in a movie that most people have seen, Colonel Kilgore in Apocalypse Now. Like how he says that he just sees this glow around him and that no bullet's ever going to touch him, you know? That's him as the sun for sure. I think he's portrayed that way on purpose.
You know, in the daytime, you got this hot fireball moving around, burning you, and then it gets dark and scary, and you got this, you know, white crescent-shaped thing in the sky that also gets full at different weeks and times of the year. The moon.
And for some reason, the tides go with it, as well as your lady's period.
That's not always true.
I know, but it's kind of fun.
They believed it back then.
I mean, maybe it was more so back then, but
Rabbits have a gestation cycle, about 28 days on average.
Rabbits also have 2 uteri, so they can be pregnant with 2 litters at the same time.
Oh. That's why they reproduce quickly.
Yeah.
But this is more of like a cycle thing. Like a lot of ancient calendars were based strictly on the lunar cycles.
It's where we get the word for month.
So in astrology, the sun and the moon are referred to as the lights. The moon is Earth's only natural satellite. It orbits around the Earth, reflecting the light and the energies of the sun, affecting the Earth and its water. So things which have an association or characteristics of the moon are called lunary, and that would be things like plants which grow or act in accordance with the moon. These are plants that might turn towards the moon or link cycles of growth with the moon. So just like fire and water are in opposition, the moon contrasts the dry nature of the solar by having associations with moisture, and all bodies of water as well, also with earth. So while the sun represents rigorous justice, the moon is sympathetic to mercy and fluidity. Many earthly things that have an intuitive, psychic, or hidden nature may also have lunary associations, and often the moon is given a feminine association. If the moon delights to be in the company of earth, then it makes sense that lunary associations are given to animals that enjoy the company of people, so like dogs. Agrippa mentions that lunary animals also tend to naturally excel in love or hatred, or change according to their surroundings, like chameleons. So changes in cycles are characteristic of the moon, and that's due to the cycles of the moon, as well as how the moon changes its nature depending on what sign it's in and what part of the lunar cycle it's in.
Fun fact, everybody hear of the Farmer's Almanac, right? Like when the best time to plant your plants are, or to sprout them at least, or put them in the soil.
I love the Farmer's Almanac.
I know, it's really interesting. And then there are dates when the sun is perfect for planting, but most people, like based farmers, know that you should plant on the lunar date of the plant because it gives you more yield, more growth, and more bounty in the end. So there are lunar dates that you plant stuff instead of just the solar date, which you should pay more attention to the lunar date when it comes to actually growing stuff.
So for me, it's not so much that the moon makes the rabbit's gestation cycle 28 days. It just happens that they both have 28 days, and so they fall into the same categorical box. Anyway,
The moon is associated with the sphere of Yesod and the divine name Shaddai El Chai. And its archangel is Gabriel. Its color is usually associated with purple. And I should also say this, colors for these things change across cultures. This is Western understanding. And it's usually attributed to the metal silver.
Sometimes it's the color silver and the metal silver, and silver is an earthy metal. So in alchemy, the symbol for silver, the metal, is the waxing crescent symbol of the moon.
the moon is associated with the high priestess of the tarot, whose letter is the Hebrew Gemel, which has various and nuanced meanings. It sounds similarly to the Hebrew word for camel, but also rope, and is given the communicative or connective qualities of both. Camels deliver between places and ropes connect. Gemel is seen as the connective mediator between the first two letters, the swirly emanative aleph and the container of bet. It is also said to be associated with reward and punishment, but also the balancing between giving and taking. Here's looking at you kids who stole all the candy. Both of these aspects speak to the waxing and waning of the moon, but also how times bear the fruit of consequence from the seed of our actions.
It makes a lot of sense. You know, if the sun provides rays of light, which is kind of like the seeds of growth, then the moon reflects that light. The moon is kind of like a womb that takes in the light, and it goes through a cycle of fullness and emptiness.
I always thought it was interesting that, and I didn't learn this until high school, that the word lunatic etymologically has roots from luna. And it was thought that you would go crazy by staring at the moon, and they'd call those people lunatics. I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome. So psychologically speaking, the moon is all about emotions, the inner world, illusions, I guess, tricks of the mind. Illusions is a weird association to have.
The subconscious.
Yeah, the unconscious, subconscious, the receptive mind. Interestingly enough, it reflects the light of the sun. So let that sink in.
Well, the esoteric lesson of this card is related to the things we talked about in our shadow work episode. The things that are not integrated into our psyche, magically or psychologically speaking, come at us like phantoms, illusions. We project them onto our environment. And because of this reflective nature, it's associated with the moon.
Well, what if I told you the moon itself is an illusion? That's not really the moon, and it's a flying space base that's hollow, and it dings when banged hard enough.
Nah, dude, it's a hologram.
All right, I won't say any more. Just leave me alone.
It is a mysterious object. Let's be real.
Hasn't it only been there for like 4.5 billion years or something like that? Like it's
Not-
new.
Not to mention, not many quote unquote moons in the solar system are actually a perfect sphere. I mean, I'm not saying the moon is perfect, but it sure does look like a circle.
Well, it bends out. It kind of bulges out towards the Earth because of gravity.
But the only moons we know that look like that are extremely old.
It's bizarre because it's a fourth the size of Earth. Before they made Pluto not a planet, it made the Earth and the moon the closest to having a biplanetary body in the solar system. It's just huge. The other inner planets don't have moons like us. Mercury doesn't have any. Venus doesn't have any. Deimos and Phobos, they hardly count on Mars. Then in the outer giants, they're these big icy things. They're not desolate like the moon. The moon's very bizarre. Nobody really knows where it came from.
And it's tidally locked to Earth. So it always faces the same way towards Earth as it orbits around.
Interestingly enough, I believe Pluto is tidally locked, isn't it?
I know all of Jupiter's moons, like all the major moons of Jupiter, are tidally locked to Jupiter, and Pluto is tidally locked to Charon. So they face each
Oh.
other, and they just kind of they dance together.
It's like
Correct.
if you consider it a planet, it would be a dual planet system.
Yeah, it's a binary system.
I mean, just go watch Dragon Ball Z Season 1. Piccolo blew up the moon to stop the Saiyans from turning into giant beasts to destroy the planet. That's it.
It's interesting because the moon actually helps to stabilize the Earth.
The Earth's tilt towards the sun varies between 22.1 and 24.5 degrees. But without the moon, it would go all the way to 85 degrees. The Earth would just be this wobbly nightmare without the moon.
Ugh.
We also talked about it being responsible for the tidal movement of the oceans. Its importance cannot be understated. My favorite, like, no woo-woo, non-occult theory about the moon and why it's so special is because it was created in a synestia, which is basically the Earth already existed with water and big elements when it was struck by an enormous object and vaporized it. It just so happened that the moon was the first piece that coagulated in the soup and the Earth was the remaining part. And it kind of makes sense to me because if the Earth was formed in a cloud where the moon coagulated first, maybe the relationship of that dance between the two created the like convenient size. I don't know. It's bizarre. It also has the same apparent magnitude of the sun. It's a strange thing.
It's perfect, really, for what we need for this planet.
And it rings like a bell when you smash stuff into it.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. The like shock waves that go through it when something strikes it.
That's actually interesting that you say that because silver, you know the term silver bells. Silver actually has like the most beautiful sound, which is why it's used, like the resonance that it makes. So that's why they like to use silver for bells. And that's the moon's metal.
They're calling demons. That's why.
My favorite woo-woo theory is that it's an alien spaceship and they use some sort of nuclear reaction power to excavate the innards of the planet through volcanic action, which we know the moon had a lot of volcanic activity at one point. And the interior is now hollow due to this process, and it can be used like a giant city spaceship thing. That's no moon.
Well, you know, it was destroyed by the Anunnaki when Marduk crashed, you know.
That's
Earth.
no moon.
I mean, really, Hollywood put the Death Star there for us to know that it's a moon base. I'm sorry.
It's Planet X.
Bro, you keep saying stuff like that, I'm going to have you put in Zombieland. Those meetings with your kids will never be the same, bro.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry.
Moving on.
The personal planet. You know how the sun and the moon, as I was saying, are considered inner planets, but they are the lights of the inner planets. The rest of the inner planets are considered the personal planets. So the first of that would be Mercury. And Mercury is the planet closest to the sun. So its complete period of orbit around the sun, it's only 88 days. So, you know, the Earth takes 365 days to go around as an Earth year. Well, Mercury's year is only 88 days long. But it has like a crazy long day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Each
it
day
rotates
is really
very
long.
slowly.
Yeah.
And its dark side is extremely cold.
Mm-hmm.
So Mercury is the fastest of all the planets, but it does rotate really slowly. So it's kind of funny. It's a funny combination to me. And so Mercury was considered to be the messenger and mediator of the gods, which makes sense. Anything of the power of Mercury or which has characteristics of Mercury are referred to as mercurial. Mercury has associations with both water and air. Mercurial characteristics have to do with eloquence, communication, thought, the conscious mind, clarity, swiftness, and the manner of expression, like the transmission and translation of energies. So the fluidity of Mercury's energies and the ability to combine gives Mercury a hermaphroditic association of both masculine and feminine, as opposed to strictly one or the other. So it's often considered to be neutral or sometimes even childlike in its nature. And its neutrality can provide the ability to reconcile oppositions through knowledge and understanding.
Or communication.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, the symbol for Mercury, it looks like the female symbol, which is a circle with a cross pointing towards the bottom. But it also has these two like antenna-like structures or a half circle at the top that looks almost like the Taurus symbol.
Yeah, this is one of the alchemical symbols that had the cross added to it later on. The older versions of the mercurial symbol don't have that horizontal line across it.
So it's just a circle with three outward pointing directionals.
It just looks like a circle with horns on its head, like a head with horns with a line coming down from it, the old version.
Oh, okay.
The crosses were added to the alchemical symbols to make it seem
Jesus-y.
Jesus-y, really. Alchemy is not of the devil. Look, it's Jesus-y.
Oh.
Mercury is associated with the sphere of Hod and the divine name Elohim Sabaoth. The archangel name is Michael, and the color is orange. And like I've said, there's many different colors for all these things. And the metal we named after the god, the planet, is Mercury, of course.
The fluid metal.
Yeah, and that's why it's a watery metal.
In terms of the tarot, it corresponds to the magician, and by extension, the Hebrew letter bet, which means house. As mentioned before, bet is usually described as complementary to Aleph, receiving it and becoming a house for the spirit.
I just wanted to say that the wand is associated with Mercury as well, like the caduceus, the staff of Hermes. And the magician is wielding the wand.
Hermes also has association with serpents and wings.
This makes some sense astrologically because the planet Mercury contains the sun orbiting closely around it. You could even see the caduceus staff as like the path the sun is taking with the planets orbiting around it, namely Mercury.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, because it is moving within space. So any kind of orbit actually pans out to be a spiral.
Yeah, flat earthers. This is also why Mercury is said to be a messenger of the sun, running around and delivering to other planets on its behalf. The magician also works this way as a vessel and communicator for the inner spirit, which is contacted through mercurial means.
I just looked up some DBZ stuff because Piccolo has an attack called Special Beam Cannon. It's a spiral, and it's translated in Japan as Demonic Piercing Light Murdering Gun.
Nice.
Makan ko Sapo.
I don't think he's just trying to talk to you if he whips that one out.
No, he's trying to kill you.
So all watery birds that can fly have an association with Mercury, especially if they have long legs, like the ibis, which is Thoth, Hermes, Mercury. And this is also because they go between, they can go water, land, air. They go between all.
Flamingos.
Yeah, flamingos, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So then that brings us to the next planet, which is Venus.
Woo!
And Venus lies between Mercury and the Earth as a second planet from the sun. And the surface of the planet is occulted by thick clouds composed of sulfuric acid droplets and an atmosphere of carbon dioxide, which really strongly reflects sunlight. So it makes it the brightest celestial body after the sun and the moon. Things under the power of Venus are called Venusian or venereal. I'm not going to use the term venereal, probably because a lot of people are going to cringe at it. But characteristics that are Venusian are things of beauty, attraction, love, relationships, sex, compassion, integration, harmony. Also artistry, sweetness, lust, pleasantness. Those are all Venusian qualities.
Venereal quality.
Venereal. Well, that's exactly why they were called venereal diseases, because it's a disease of your love related meats.
Love related wizard sleeve?
My wife, she has pussy like sleeve of wizard.
And it has an association with 5, if I'm not mistaken.
And Lucifer.
If you're looking at the orbits of Venus and Earth from above, as they orbit the sun, they link up 5 times at roughly 72 degrees, which looks like a pentagram, which has 5 points.
Certainly does.
Oh, I see.
You just made me remember. I forgot to say regarding Mercury that Mercury has the most perfect axial degree of all of our planets. It's almost at 0.
Oh, wow. Straight up and down.
It's almost perfectly upright.
I'd imagine it has to do with being near the sun.
But Venus, her
It also-
sweet self, actually rotates backwards.
Yeah. So
yeah.
weird.
She has a prograde orbit, but she spins retrograde.
And isn't it the only planet that does that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Venus is associated with elemental air and water, and also is often given a soft feminine association.
On the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, it's also associated with fire, so it's gonna depends what context you're looking.
Hot and heavy.
Hot and wet, like coffee. Venus is associated with the sphere of netsock,
Yeah.
and its divine name is Yod-He Vav-He Sabaoth. The archangel is Haniel. Usually, the color green is associated with it, and its metal is copper.
Copper, when it's oxidized, is green.
Yeah. So
An airy metal, right?
that's why the Statue of Liberty is green.
Now that you mentioned the Statue of Liberty, the Tarot Association plays a part in that as well. So the Empress is the card associated with Venus. and its associated Hebrew letter is dalet. It means door or door bolt. It might not surprise people to hear that the concept of mother goddess and door find an obvious overlap in the idea of a birth canal, but this can be abstracted out further. In the case of Statue of Liberty, it means the door to the rest of the country. Doors separate the inside from the outside. They either combine or separate depending on what side you're on. Even today, a baby is considered a baby once it's outside the womb. Until then, it's considered part of the mother. To reinforce this concept on the Tree of Life, Dalet connects the uppermost part of the pillar of force and the pillar of form. The alchemical process of dissolve and recombine occurs by passing through this door. This makes sense because Venus may only be seen shortly before the sun rises, announcing the morning, or shortly after its setting, which announces the night. Either way, it represents the transition between both states, initiating it as a door would do. Venus, serving as the door between day and night, is a great metaphor for separating the pillar of force and the pillar of form. During the day, we go out and achieve actions in the world. At night, we go inside our house and receive visions during sleep. Both influence the other. In this way, we dissolve and recombine daily, with Venus as the door between the two states.
Some interesting points, too. To go back to Statue of Liberty, I imagine being an immigrant, sailing on a boat from Europe, and you would see the Statue of Liberty going to New York as the doorway to the New World.
Absolutely. If we look at the solar system with the sun as its head, Mercury as the house, then Dalet would be the door upon this house. The moon, with its camel, or rope, would connect us to what is on the other side of this door, the dwelling place of the spirit or sun. Venus, named for the hottest goddess, as we've said, is also the hottest planet. It's made possible by light becoming stuck in the dense carbon dioxide atmosphere as heat, making it a giant greenhouse, to return back to green.
Yes.
Secondly, its dense atmosphere causes Venus to shimmer brightly, outshined only by the sun and moon. This beautiful shimmering outside obscures a cratered, corrosive, inhospitable surface, which is fitting for the energies of Venus, who's obsessed with outward appearance. As we discussed earlier, Venus spins retrograde to every other planet, but it's also been confirmed to have a tail, not unlike an asteroid, suggesting that it may have been a wandering planet recently captured by our sun. Some even think within human history, it may have shone immensely bright like a second sun.
You know what's kind of interesting about the axis of Venus is that if you try to look it up, you'll get maybe two different numbers. One being it's either a 3-degree axial tilt or a 177-degree axial tilt. Venus is actually, like, it looks as though it's only a 3-degree axial tilt, but it's actually 177 degrees. So Venus is actually completely upside down and spinning backwards.
That's why it's spinning backwards. It's because it's upside down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it flipped over as it went past Earth.
It's almost perfectly upside down. So Mercury is almost perfectly right side up with almost no axial tilt whatsoever. I think it's less than 2 degrees. And then Venus is almost perfectly upside down.
That's fascinating because they're complementary in the Tree of Life. It's bizarre.
So I think it was mentioned that copper is the metal for Venus and that it's an airy metal. It shares the symbol for Venus alchemically, which is a circle with a cross underneath it. Or the old version of that without the cross, it's just a circle with a line coming down from it.
That one too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's a vagina.
I mean, it could be something going into the womb or coming out of the womb. It also looks similar to the symbol for a conjunction.
Or just Mars flipped the other way.
Yeah, without the little arrowhead.
Oh, I guess before we start talking about Mars, just start talking about the crappiest planet in the system.
Womp womp.
I think it might be the only planet with shit on it. If there's no life anywhere else, this would technically be the shittiest planet.
Well,
You show up, Will
And
Smith
there's-
just smacks you.
define shit because, you know,
Excrement from a living being.
but bacteria has waste too, doesn't it? And there are bacteriums from other planets.
Not that we've seen.
Yeah, we've
It's
seen.
because we haven't gone there.
Yeah, bacterium from, I believe, Mars has come to us in the form of meteorites.
I don't know if that's a facty fact, but I'd be willing
I mean, I'm not going
to
to say you're wrong.
Do you want me to find it?
Wrong either. No.
Earth is shitty. That's a fact. For the ancient magicians and not so wise guys, they thought all of existence spun around Earth. So in a lot of classical alchemical texts, Earth is actually like at the center of all this stuff. I'm going to explain that later, but it's associated with the sphere of Malkuth and the divine name Adonai Ha-Aritz. And its archangel name is Sandalphon. I think that's where we get the name Sandal. Its color is a mix. It could be green. I've seen it oftentimes, though, like a circle with the cross in it of black lines and then quartered off in colors red, yellow, green, and black.
As we discussed in our last episode, Earth is said to contain all the elements, but in a higher sense, it's said to contain everything else as well. You could think of it a bit like the fruit hanging off of a tree. And it's even represented this way somewhat in the Kabbalistic tree of life, dangling from the bottom.
Yeah, it contains everything from above and below. Really, like it's got everything. And this is the middle world. It's Midgard in Viking mythology.
Everything is going on here. It is Baron's chat.
The loopy conspiracy theory guy in me wants to tell you that Earth is a cradle planet for all life in the universe, and every single life form has to pass by here on Earth in some version in its cycle of rebirth and reincarnation or whatever.
Are you calling it a spiritual port city?
It's like a vacation where you get to do all the stuff that you don't get to do in the other realms. So you got to be careful with what you do here, because you're going to die, and then what's going to happen with your soul. There's a bunch of theories with that, first of all, but it all is revolved around Earth, and a lot of the magic is here. So there's not much to say, because unlike all the other subjects we're talking about here, Earth is full of mysteries, yes, but we know a lot about it. So I don't think we need to cover as many of the sciencey details about Earth as the rest.
It doesn't come up on a birth chart that much because we're on it, you know? So
It's us, essentially. That is you. Like, just like the sun is us, the earth, we came from the earth and its elements. So we kind of owe it the love and care that it deserves in a way. Let me be a hippie for a second.
So anything under the power of Mars is called martial. Mars is associated with fire, heat, sharpness, war, power, anything offensive, ravenous, or burning. Regarding plants, prickly plants or plants that have, burning sensations or burning poisons, all of those are considered martial. And so the emotions of boldness, contention, and anger, those are also martial emotions. There's also positive martial characteristics like being active, dynamic, hot, energetic, as well as vitality and assertiveness. So martial energies can be highly constructive or highly destructive. It depends on the applications. And since Mars is related to actions, it's also associated with how we express ourselves outwardly in the physical world. So if Venus is the source of attraction, then Mars might be likened to the active impulse that seeks out that attraction.
It can also be repulsive or defensive, like in the state of combat.
Yeah, its symbol is a lance and a shield, if I remember correctly. It's a spear and a shield, which says a lot magically.
Looks like a little circle with an arrow coming out of it.
Yeah, a little
And
phalanx.
The arrow is pointing up.
Mars is associated with the sphere of Geburah. Its divine name is Elohim Gibor. Archangel Kamael, the color associated with it is red in the West usually, and its metal is iron.
Makes sense. Rusty, rust, red. It's a fiery metal, iron. So, and that's also the abundance of iron on Mars is what is responsible for its ready orange hue.
How the did ancients know this?
Specifically iron, which is oxidized.
Yeah, kind of like how Venus has the copper. Copper we associate with orange and warm colors, but it's actually green when it oxidizes. So likewise, iron is cold, gray when it's fresh, but when it's oxidized, it's red.
I wish I could be in an ancient mystery school way, way, way back.
Well, like Malachor was saying, how did they know this stuff? It's because the elementals are fundamental to the way the world works. And just by observing the macro universe, you can kind of you get these small peeks into reality of how actual elements will interact with each other.
That's what I want to know, how they knew all that.
That doesn't mean you can guess and be right about iron being the reason why Mars is red.
But they knew it was red. They knew it was red.
They're funny to me. They're just like...
They knew some shit.
They're doing cool shit, and they didn't tell anybody about it, and people are running in circles.
If you follow the formula, it works.
You're right. I agree.
Speaking of formula, I actually learned a little bit myself researching for the episode. Now, the tarot card associated with Mars is the Tower, and it is associated with the Hebrew letter Peh, which means mouth. The combination of the Tower and mouth suggests the Tower of Babel, which represents mankind's domination over nature and the animal world by our unique use of speech or language. Speech and the use of our mouth, like the tower, is how we reach toward the heavenly realm and can unite us with the gods. It was God that spoke the world into existence, after all. Likewise, the higher we climb, the further we can fall. Words can slowly build towards a higher unity or destroy us in an instant, as the blasted tower so often depicts. Astrologically, Mars is the first outer planet and leads to the higher realms, which, in this metaphor, would be the gas giants. By modern standards, it's not difficult to see the similarities between colonizing Mars and building the Tower of Babel toward heaven. It's the modern day equivalent. Consider how the person most likely to colonize Mars is also the person who just acquired Twitter, claiming freedom of speech as his reasoning.
I was always told we get the word Babel from when Babylon was destroyed and scattered all the races of men across the planet to different languages. So they're babbling to each other when they don't understand each other.
And it seems like the guy who's going to build the towers on Mars is also the guy trying to unite languages through a social media network, like it's part of some giant ancient ritual. Convenient.
And he wants to colonize Mars. Okay.
And then don't forget the churches that speak in tongues. The babbling in those churches are witnessed as the Holy Spirit casting out demons of somebody's body.
Which would be a protective capacity of Mars. In fact, sometimes your summoning circle can be made red for that very reason, because it's seen as a ring of force.
Like a boundary, correct?
Yes, Mars is great at creating boundaries. Like we mentioned earlier, it's associated with a spear and a shield. Well, here we are again, looking at the actual planet. Mars has the tallest mountain in our solar system, nearly 3 times as high as Everest. This mountain, Olympus Mons, is a giant shield volcano with a caldera at the summit. So it's a shield and a penis. It's a spear and a shield at the same time. It's got the biggest pointy outy thing in the solar system, and that's its symbol too. It's crazy.
I think that's interesting that you called it an outer planet, and it's also considered an inner planet in astrology because it's a personal planet.
Well, it's the closest outpost we have to the asteroid belt, which separates us from the inner planets towards the outer planets.
Yes.
And Jupiter obviously has the bigger gravitational influence, but Mars also does a great job in shielding the Earth from impacts from, stray asteroids from the belt.
It's second line of defense.
I just mean it's also interesting because it's both an outer planet and an inner planet, and it has its symbol as a shield and a spear.
Yes. I mean, technically, yes, it is an inner planet, but if you're playing Kerbal Space Program, you're launching rockets, it's the first planet that's further away from the sun.
Yeah, because it's the first planet from, if you're leaving Earth, it's the first planet going away from the sun.
So like a tower, you're climbing towards heaven.
I'm not so much of a space nerd in terms of rockets as you, Luke. Do we have to send our stuff towards the sun to do like a slingshot loop around the sun to get to Mars?
No.
They can just rocket it there?
You slingshot off of your earthly orbit.
Oh, okay. Duh.
Like you have to burn prograde to slingshot yourself outwards.
It's like if you had 2 cars on the freeway and you were trying to throw a package between 2 of them on the freeway while turning.
Okay. So you just go kind of directly from Earth. You don't go in and then out. There's just no way you can do that. Yeah.
Comets do that, but then they fling way out of the solar system. So it's like if you go out of your way to orbit around the sun, you might overshoot because of the sheer velocity that you'll be going.
Right.
So it's kind of it's a waste of energy to do that. You either slingshot around the Earth and you go straight there, or you can also use the moon to like change your trajectory slightly.
It's kind of interesting because it's not just like a straight line. It's like an arc.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Very
nothing moves straight in space. Nothing at all, ever.
Space is queer.
Then, let's be real, after Mars, there's a ton of debris. It's called the asteroid field. A planet probably got blowed up. That's just what it looks like.
Yeah, loopy conspiracy. It's Tiamat.
Oh, the extra planet that got blown up?
Where we got all our water from, apparently.
So we can use the asteroid belt as kind of like the dividing line between the inner planets and the outer planets. And the outer planets are considered to be the impersonal planets in astrology. So the first of which is Jupiter. So Jupiter is the first of the outer planets beyond the asteroid belt. It's the 5th planet from the sun, the largest body in our solar system besides the sun itself. And as such, it has a very strong magnetic field. So energetically, everything Jupiter does is grandiose. Jupiter is a gas giant. It has 80 confirmed moons, making the planet appear as if it's its own solar system. This is pretty cool, actually, if you think about it. So it takes Jupiter about 12 years to orbit the sun, but it also has the shortest day of all the planets in the solar system. It's only 10 hours long.
Whoa.
It parties during the other hours.
Woo!
It's spinning really fast for its size.
It's surrounded by woo girls partying, 80
There's
of them.
Tons of girls.
Yeah, they're all named after the god Jupiter's wives because he's a man whore.
And daughters.
Oh, that's true.
So, and yeah, the major moons of Jupiter, they're tidally locked to Jupiter, like our moon is tidally locked to Earth. So things under the power of Jupiter are called jovial. So the word jovial means cheerful or friendly, and it has its etymological roots in the Roman god Jove or Jupiter. So jovial literally means of or relating to Jupiter. Things that are jovial have a nature of mirth and honor. Jupiter is associated with the element of air, and anything which increases life, expands, or grows, that's considered a jovial principle. Creation, good nature, health, wisdom, stateliness, all jovial characteristics. Jupiter supplies the wisdom and understanding that Mercury utilizes, translates, and communicates as well. So also with Mercury being associated with speed and travel, Jupiter is associated with travel as well, but more so the long journeys that are directed towards growth.
And also familial growth. Like Jupiter rules over your relationships specifically within your family, as well as when you talk about wealth with Jupiter, it has to do with ties or communication with friends or family.
It's interesting how similar it's magically looked at compared to Mercury, as it's the first of the outer planets as well. So it's a messenger from the outer parts of the system into the inner, where Mercury's like the innermost messenger to Earth.
And also because of its size being the second largest body in the solar system after the sun, because of its size, it's considered to be the host of planets.
I call it the Big Daddy.
I love Jupiter. It's the synergy of the signs. It's associated with the sphere Hesed and the divine name simply El. Archangel Sadikiel. The color is usually understood to be blue, and its metal is tin.
That's an airy metal.
I also love the symbol that it uses. It looks like a 2 and a 4, but really it's like a scythe symbol and a vertical glyph merged into one.
I really like the symbol as well, not just because I'm also Sagittarius, but my favorite number is 24, and it just looks like the number 24 as one symbol combined.
Yeah, my dad's favorite number was 24. I like 4, but 2 times 2 is 4. It's the square of 4, square root. So I have an association with that. It's also 6 times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24. So you have this association with time passing, the balance of the elements, and all this other stuff that leads to abundance.
It's neat too, because Jupiter is associated with creation, right? Like procreation as well, families. And the 2 and the 4, when you have the number 24, the 4 looks like it fits perfectly into the curvature of the 2. And it's those two numbers taken and put together for the symbol for Jupiter.
Which reminds me of multiplication or abundance, right? And the hours of the day.
Like the 24 hours of the clock, which brings up the wheel.
Yes, in tarot, Jupiter is associated with the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is then associated with the Hebrew letter Kaf, which means palm of hand. It's seen as holding or receiving in nature. It is the palm of the hand through which Christ or Jupiter, as an archetype, is fixed or nailed to the cross to transcend death and be taken up into the sky. Both Jupiter and the wheel are associated with the realm of the heavens, specifically the fixed signs of the zodiac, which are often used to symbolize the 4 elements in ritual. As the 10th major arcana card, it is also often depicted with Roman numerals as an X, which doubles as a cross, but also the crook and flail of Father Osiris, as the shepherd of souls and merciful king. Osiris's heir, the sky god Horus, uses the palm of his hand to block the non-virile semen of his uncle Set, preventing him from being marked during an important contest between the two. In this mythological lens, Set is played by Saturn.
And it is actually, the Egyptians did view Jupiter as one of Horus's incarnations. So I believe 3 of the planets had associations with Horus, but Jupiter was one.
And if you look at Jupiter on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life with its association with Hesed, the paths leading out of it are the Hermit, the Hierophant, and of course the Wheel. Now, the Hermit, its letter is Yod, which means hand, And then the Hierophant's letter Vav is nail. So the theme of the hand and the nail is repeated on the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Of all planetary magic I've done, I've worked with Jupiter the most, and it has gotten me through more things than any other one and getting through the other side. Totally fine. A martial ritual at times probably would have got me stabbed. This is like a weird emperor presence almost, where it's more about intimidation. Your weapon is a scepter rather than a sword. It's being like totally dominating that you don't even need to fight. It's my thing. That's my jive, is like, I don't want to fight, dude. Just leave me the fuck alone, because magically things are going to happen, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I view the king figure as self-sacrificing in order to take care of his, subjects.
And that's what Christ did, right? Mythologically. Right. So the association makes sense.
So the nail in the hand is a self-sacrifice in order for abundance.
Yes.
It governs a lot of things, actually. That's why Jupiter was like the top of the pantheon for the Romans, Zeus, the gods.
Right underneath Saturn, which is like where we're going next,
Yeah, of course. But I just wanted to say, if you feel synergy with Jupiter, like, you're with me, and that shit works. Like, if you're getting anything from these episodes, this being a fire sign and stuff like that, it really works. I don't know. I think a lot of people my age are having Jupiter-related problems. They're indulging in drugs too much and alcoholism. Their finances, they don't know how to save. And, those are all fun things, but Jupiter is like, no, don't do that, bro. You don't need it. He's like the ultimate Chad. And he's the voice in your ear telling you don't need to get high. Like, and I'm trying to tap into that. Like, that's how you regulate your money, by not spending it on your booze.
Well, understanding that there is no such thing as scarcity. You're being in that abundant space where those positive outcomes can actually come naturally to you. Fun fact, the fact that Jupiter's color is blue, you've seen pictures of it. It's usually bands of orange, white, and red. We associate those colors with it because we've seen pictures. But originally, before telescopes, it was assigned the colors purple or blue. Recently, we've gotten a flyby mission. It's actually captured pictures of the poles. So the North and the South Pole, not only do they have geometrical designs of storms in them, they actually are a tint of blue and purple. So the ancients actually got it right that Jupiter is of blue and purple, but that's where it's most active, is in the poles. And then you see the biggest storm on the side of it is the Great Red Spot that everybody talks about, the size of 3 Earths or whatever.
Yeah, 3 Earths could fit in the red storm. And it's like, as Hecka said, the magnetic qualities of Jupiter are abundant.
And its North Pole aura is actually purple in color. It's like UV light. Jupiter has a ton of moons, and it actually has a thin ring that you can't really see with the naked eye. You have to have a really, really good telescope, but it does have a ring of debris. Jupiter has a lot of fully formed moons, and a lot of interesting ones at that. Yeah. There is a volcanic moon, Io, and there's also Europa, which is a frozen water moon. So it has
geysers and shit.
Yeah, it's got all this different stuff going on. And if you actually look into astrology more, you can chart those things as well on your chart. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Jupiter has a bunch of sexy ladies orbiting that are wet. Saturn just eats his kids.
Nom, 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 nom. Jupiter is so large, and it has such a magnificent magnetic field that it actually serves as a protector for the inner planets. So a lot of times, if a comet or an asteroid is coming in straight to hit one of the planets, it'll actually curve it away from the inner planets, or it'll actually capture the debris in its own orbit.
Who's that pretty lady?
Ooh.
Why don't you come over here to Jupiter?
Very attractive force.
Oh, hello.
And then it's just like multi-pass, and then it's like, okay, get out of here.
He does have flings, right?
Before we move on from Jupiter, we got to do a 2001 Space Odyssey episode, because the Jupiter mission symbolism.
Well, just talking about the Hebrew letters so far, it's the aeon of Christ being awakened in the human consciousness. If we're going to look at the Hebrew letters, it's like when we become fixed to the spirit, right? That's once we climb the mountain, become fixed to the spirit, and we live in harmony with. But it also has dark connotations, because we talked about a lot of fascist ideology likes to relate itself to the wheel in the sky and its powers as a lightning weapon, which is seen as a weapon of justice, vengeance, judgment, rightness. Yeah. And it's used that way in the swastika, the Chase Bank logo, you name it.
Yeah. Jupiter is propaganda. If you want to use the word propaganda and attribute it to a planet, totally fucking Jupiter.
And interesting that you bring up these dark star, the black sun, and all this other stuff that's of fascist propaganda symbols. Because Jupiter was also known as the second star of our universe. It just didn't ignite. So if it were slightly larger, it would have been a dual star system.
So depending on what light you're looking at it, Jupiter could represent
The dark star.
The dark star or the reemergence of Christ consciousness resurrected.
Mhm.
Like
Which is scary.
Yeah, it is.
Which brings us to the most frightening and scary planet.
But also maybe the most fun. Saturn.
Woohoo!
This is where all the memes come from. Those 93 memes. I love them, and they always got the Saturn symbol on there.
So Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun, 2nd of the outer planets. It's almost as big as Jupiter, but not.
But it would
Not
float in a bathtub of water.
It's very buoyant.
It's a gas giant. It has the most extensive ice rings surrounding it. It takes Saturn 29 years to complete an orbit of the sun.
That's exactly one midlife crisis.
I was going to say your first Saturn return is your midlife crisis when you turn 30.
Yeah, it's been quite the experience. I'm about to be 30 in a month.
Oh, bitch. Come on.
I'm through it. I made it through, and I think I'm
almost 36 now.
Sorry.
So because Saturn is tilted, the rings look different from every angle. And when they come back to your Saturn return, they're at the exact same alignment they were.
When you were born.
Yeah, and the rings come back around the way they were.
I think Saturn's axial tilt is just over 26 degrees, almost 27.
Whoa.
Saturn might be the closest to the tilt of the Earth, actually.
You're right. And 26 is also related to the cube because that's the total number of faces, vertices, and edges of a cube.
It's a meme. It's the black cube meme.
It's also the numerical value of Yahweh or the Tetragrammaton. 26. Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, this planet is scary as I'm going to say this. I've heard very respected magician friends of mine that are in orders that I won't name that have sworn to me, if you do the Saturn sign at the right time and your intention is to kill somebody, it's going to work. I've never tried it, but that's what I've heard. Like, this is the kill spell if you're going to do it.
If you want to frighten somebody, use red magic of Mars. It's made to intimidate, make the enemy stop fighting, because as we learned in our PsyOps episode, that's actually what war is about, is getting the enemy to stop fighting. Saturn is actually killing stuff, destroying, death, oppression, stuckness.
I also think that it's really interesting that it has such a similar axial tilt to Earth because its metal is also considered an earthy metal, and that's lead.
Things decay into lead. It's a base metal. It really is.
The things that are associated with Saturn or under the power of Saturn are called Saturnian or Saturnine. So Saturn has characteristics of darkness, restriction, death, decay, depression, heaviness. All of those are Saturnian. Its elements are earth, but also water. So earthy things that are solitary, dark, shadowy, and heavy, those are Saturnian, as well as anything that is sown but doesn't bear fruit is considered Saturnian.
I see.
Skate.
Like plants that are sown but don't bear fruit, or using a condom would be considered Saturnian. So Saturn's energy is lonesome, covetous, and melancholy, but it's also foundational. And Saturnian characteristics have to do with structure, stability, binding, limiting, discipline, and material understanding. If you're familiar with the myths about Saturn or Kronos, you know that he ate his children. So animals that partake in filial cannibalism, the eating of their young, they're also considered to be Saturnian. And Saturn also rules over the process of aging, as well as all slow and chronic processes.
That's saying a lot.
Even the symbol is, to me, it looks like a hammer and sickle. It's most closely associated with the sickle of, say, death, the figure.
That's a very important idea, death, end. Like I've said before with the elements, all magic contains the elements. All magic contains the planetary energies. So the idea that all things have an end is magically sound. If you don't understand that, your magic's not going to work.
Well, Saturn is the god of time, and anything that's bound in time is subject to death.
Or decay.
You have to just understand that as a magician. It's just a fundamental.
But the most beautiful thing is the decay of one thing leads to the birth and the regeneration of another.
And it's beautiful.
That's the ending process. You know, they say an ending is the beginning of a new beginning. That's the kind of idea of Saturn.
Well, that's part of the whole celebration of Saturnalia.
The ending of the
Absolutely.
year and the birth of a new opportunity for change.
And in the old mythology, Saturn ruled over the golden age of Latium. There's a positive spin to it as well. I mean, the whole idea of taking the crops and throwing a big party, it only happened because the elites took a loss. It's only available because people work their ass off all year. And because of that structure, it allows for all the good things of life to occur as well.
Yeah.
The abundance of the winter, which is the most desolate and lifeless part of the year, and for us to have a feast then I think that's very notable.
You harvest your crops so you can defy death in the winter. It's an understanding of this death that might come to you. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to prepare myself and get my food from the crops.
It's the idea that difficult things in your life, once you master them, start to bear the best fruit. And if Saturn is the heaviest and the hardest planet to work with, once you accomplish all of its challenges, you get the biggest XP reward at the end.
Which is also why it's closely related to discipline and material understanding, because I feel as though people who have a harder time with Saturnian energies need to understand that more, that kind of discipline, that cyclical nature.
Right. The more you take from the field now, the more you'll suffer later. And vice versa. The more you take from yourself, the more you'll have abundance later.
Well, even in harvesting, you need to have the discipline to keep some of that for seeds for the next year. To me, the symbol of Saturn looks like a throne from the side. I think if you want to learn all about Saturn, we did an episode on Saturn, and I think we mentioned the throne in there. So that symbol, it looks like an H, like a lowercase h. And that's the same symbol that's used for the metal lead.
Oh, yeah. And lead is resistant to radioactive elements, too. Like it's a good shield, which isn't I thought the hermit was associated with Saturn as well.
Virgo.
The world.
I mean, being an actual hermit, though, is a little bit Saturnian, like the lonesomeness of it.
Yes.
Which is interesting because all these hard to grasp concepts and things to deal with, like lonesomeness and death, is symbolic of why Bina exists above the abyss, which is the sphere. Bina is associated with the planet Saturn on the tree, and its divine name is Yod-He-Vod-He Elohim. Its archangel name is Savikiel, usually attributed to the color black, which changes in some cultures, and its metal is lead, like we said, which has a lot of interesting properties on its own.
In the tarot, Saturn is associated with the final major arcana in the sequence, the world. Its Hebrew letter is Tau and means cross. The cross has long been used as a symbol of protection, perfection, and completion. This makes sense because in ancient Hebrew, the name for Saturn, Shabbatai, is built from the same root word as Shabbat, which means rest and implies God's perfected work on the seventh day. As we learned in our Black Cross of Saturn episode, this association was present in ancient Egypt, as the word for seven is Sabah. This theme is apparent even today if we consider the symbol for Saturn is only slightly modified from Osiris's hieroglyph depicting his throne, upon which he rests as a judge in the afterlife. If Jupiter is the hand of the sky, the thing it is holding is the cross of Saturn, which is the height, summit, or axial point of all creation. The hand receives the mark which overcomes time.
Here in the notes, I simply put Saturn sets the expiration date on thing. Everything.
Saturn's association with lead goes back a really, really long time. And Saturn actually does emit more energy. I think it's more than twice the energy that it absorbs from the sun, just like how we use lead to block X-rays.
It repels it, kind of, right?
Yeah, we don't want to absorb the X-rays. And Saturn doesn't really absorb as much from the sun as it emits, which is, I think, really interesting.
The association between the cross, or Tau, and protection is apparent in Ezekiel 9:4.
And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem,
And set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So if you had this cross, you were saved, you were good. And it still has that association today. It's the last Hebrew letter in the sequence of major arcana, and it symbolizes the completion and the end of the journey.
the completion of the great work, but also the completion of the free part of this episode. If you'd like to hear about the transpersonal planets beyond the sphere of Saturn, like Uranus and Neptune and Pluto and Eris and Make, whatever.
as well as
Planetary aspects, phases of the moon, how to calculate planetary hours, all of the things that you need to know.
Space Sudoku.
Yeah, magic squares.
then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will get you access to our entire library of extended episodes, more than doubling the content available for The Whole Rabbit. And I'll even send you a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny cover art at no additional cost to you. On top of that, I'll even send you the keys to our Discord server where you can talk to us about planetary energies, the zodiac, and the elements until your fingers fall off. Until then, thank you everybody, eat carrots, and shoot lasers.